ready to break up at the end of their term. I know exactly what that's like. Welcome to what is indeed the last full council meeting of this council term. And we are going to begin with public participation. Members of the public are invited to comment on matters within the parish. So I shall just go along the road and ask people if they'd like to say something. So, okay, so, thank you.
Well, I've got some of you are not standing again, including yourself, I believe, and there are others that may not be standing. But those of you that are standing, you may well get one vote, if I know who you are and what you do. So the main thing I want, which I said at the previous meeting, was when you start thinking about having committees, will you please seriously consider and having a proper committee? Because that will solve some problems that have arisen during the past year. There are two other committees that I can think of.
Okay, is that properties committee?
A proper
Properties, thank you. Thank you. Okay, you sir.
Well, I have a particular interest in item 7, but I'll wait until we get there.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Okay, you sir. You, you sir. Okay, you sir.
Good evening, councillors and mayor. Two subjects really. Did you go and speak to the lifeboat crew?
Yes, we did, and we do have a reply on that. Deputy Clerk?
I'll try and remember that. So we've asked the question, and we have had a response from the lifeboat station. The proposal that the current egress and access is closed to stop the sound from coming on. Unfortunately, it wasn't something they were able to consider. I will let you have the full response, Mr. Bennett. I will email that on to you, but unfortunately, it wasn't a positive response.
It was quite a detailed response, and it was explaining essentially why they can do that. And we'll pass that response.
Why they cut the void in the sand dunes, which brings all the sand on the car park now, which it never used to.
Yeah.
And I suggested that they go the other way.
Yes.
But I believe this is the only lifeboat station in the country that's facing inland.
Yeah.
The door should have been the other end.
Yeah.
To go down on the beach.
From my memory.
Instead of that, they put a wall up there, didn't they?
Yes.
Well, why didn't they have the entrance facing the sea? The quicker to load, quicker to go out to sea than on the car park. And I think it is the only lifeboat station in the country that's facing inland. It's ridiculous. It should be facing the sea.
Mr. Jennings.
After all the fuss and argument about the lifeboat house, at least it's there and working, because they originally wanted to put it on the lock gates. And that caused the biggest fuss ever. So they went over there, and the only reason then they could get in and out was that way.
So, yeah, that's
how it was, that's what it was. And there was a lot of argument about the lock gates, believe you me.
Okay.
Who is the architect for the new lifeboat station, do you know?
I have no idea.
Well, you'd have thought it was a 5-year-old from the school.
I can't comment on the architectural properties of the station.
My other subject is what's happening about Lord's Court.
Interesting question. Councillor Herbert Coulson.
I was just going to say, Mr. Jennings has explained it very well about the new lifeboat station. Well done. Councillor Jennings, sorry. The lifeboat station over by the lock gates, the old one, before they built that one,
Yeah.
that faces inland.
Yeah.
And I believe some of it might be as well to do with prevailing westerly winds having an effect, because they do get a bit fierce around here. And I can't remember which one. I think the original lifeboat station up near Brendan. I can't remember it very well.
near the sea, at Doreen's End.
Yeah.
Well, that was a big lifeboat with horses from FedEx take it down to somebody's
Yeah.
beach.
And in one of the photos is my great
Yeah, my grandfather was in the lifeboat crew, the same as I was. Yeah.
To respond to your second question, which it would be a really complicated answer otherwise.
Lord's Court.
Lord's Court, I can say is that the work on Lord's Court continues as the council intended, and this council is still committed to maintaining a post office and a shop in Stratton. How that will happen is open to a whole bunch of possibilities at this point. But work continues on that building, and work continues to investigate the potential for possibly moving the post office and shop to a different space in Stratton. But it's early days yet, and that will be something for the next council to.
Why is it being moved?
Well, we've discussed that already in council. That was a decision made by council looking at the potential costs of maintaining the structure of the building itself and looking at the potential alternatives for keeping a post office and a shop, which was the primary concern of this council. And so the council attempted to make or investigate sensible decisions that maintain that.
Well, if that building was in Bude, you would have spent a fortune on it, but because it's in Stratton, you won't.
I can't comment on that statement. Councillor O'Sullivan would like to say something.
Yeah, I will just tell you an update on the pre-planning. It's a pre-planning advice application.
Yes.
Highways are opposed to it, so it's quite possible that we'll go back to the original. Well, as the mayor has said, that will be for decision for the next council.
Well, they're talking about putting it down where the toilets are.
Yeah, sorry, that's the pre-planning advice application I'm talking about. The highways are unfavourable.
But we'll lose the post office if it goes down there,
Yeah, well,
because they won't move there.
I'm hoping that we'll go back to Lord's Court. That's my personal view.
Yeah.
Yeah. But as I say, the planning application, the pre-planning advice application to move it to the toilet is the highways are not in favour.
Councillor
So
Cole.
that possibly won't happen in here.
Yeah, recollections around this table may vary, but my recollection was that we were going to investigate the possibility of moving the shop and post office down to that, what is now the toilet block. But that was an investigation. It wasn't a totally done deal. And if that doesn't prove to be viable, as Councillor O'Sullivan has suggested it perhaps won't be, then there is a commitment around this table to continue to have a shop and post office in Stratton. And as Lord's Court is effectively the place where that shop and post office is currently conducting business, then it will be for a future council. But should I sit around that table, I'll be arguing very strongly that this council should support Lord's Court and the historic mother town of Stratton.
Well, it's a grade 2 listed building, Lord's Court, in the Stratton 100.
Thank you, Mr. Director. Okay, we are now moving to number 1 on the agenda, to receive apologies and accept the reasons for any non-attendance.
So I've got apologies from Councillor Tane for personal reasons, and also apologies from Councillor Cho.
Okay. I propose that we accept those apologies. Do I have a seconder? Thank you. All those in favour? Thank you very much. To receive any declarations of interest on items on the agenda. Do we have any? That is not. Oh, sorry, it doesn't say dispensation. Sorry, did anybody need any dispensations for stuff that we're discussing? That's a no. Right, number 3, the Mayor's report. This is my last report, so I hope I give you a little bit of latitude
I'm going to attempt to avoid political stuff because of the time that we're in. And I may well speak about some very personal stuff. But first, apart from attending various meetings during the last month, the most public event that I spoke at was on the 6th of March to support the visit of Cornwall's High Sheriff to Bude-Stratton and our celebration of our many community groups. There were over 30 packed into the castle. 30 groups, that is, not people. The castle was absolutely packed. When I spoke, I emphasised that we are, as I've always said, a community of communities, and the people packing out the castle on that night were amongst the real doers that glued together all those different groups. I also said that one of the things I was proud of is that in the last 3 years, this council has given around 70 grants, ranging from £50 to £2,500 to such groups, totalling £63,000 has been put back into the wider community of Bude-Stratton. But I emphasised that that night was not about our council, it was about the people in that room. And that the work of those groups created a real sense of community belonging, fighting against many of the difficulties that assault people from all sorts of directions in the modern world that we live in. The High Sheriff echoed and extended my views and really emphasised that from his point of view, Bude-Stratton was really special. There was something special about particularly the community involvement, and he wanted to bottle that and export it, which wasn't surprising since he essentially owns a distillery and thinks in those terms. One of the interesting things that stuck in my mind was he said, "Nobody's coming to rescue us." And I'll come back to that phrase in a bit. After that, on Sunday the 9th, I had an early start to open a refurbished Cornish bakery in our town centre. Not early for them, as the manager told me she often starts work at 5:30 a.m. because it's a traditional bakery. While there, sitting there watching this go on, it reminded me that bakeries are probably amongst the oldest shops in civilization, that they have been with us as long as we've been farmers, as long as we've had towns. And also that it is actually the future of shopping centres. Lots of research has shown that the old shopping centres and our experience of the old shopping centres are dying because they can't compete with the likes of Amazon and the rest. But the areas that are successful are those that provide services like food services, places to sit and eat and drink and work. I do hope that future councils will continue to support initiatives that boost our town centre. Initiatives like the Bude Town Team that we work so hard to set up, and hopefully that will extend to really keep our town centre modern and forward-looking. And now to a personal note. It's been on my mind that disabilities have been in the news recently a lot. And I really want to avoid saying anything political because of the context of elections. So I'm going to try and stick to the personal. I have to say that, a lot of what's been going on about disability, stuff that nobody around this table can control, is about cutting disability benefits. And I want to speak as an individual with a diagnosed disability. I am really angry at any government of any political background that sets out to make working class and poor disabled people's lives poorer and more difficult. Nearly 2 years ago, at the relatively late age of 58, I was diagnosed with autism. I'll not go into the ins and outs of why or how such a thing has affected my life, but I will make an apology to councillors for one particular trait. I, like some autistic people, demonstrate a condition which is associated with autism, which is called by the ridiculously complicated name prosopagnosia, but which is more simply described as face blindness. It means that I find it very difficult to read faces and also find it difficult to associate people's names with their faces, no matter how well I know them. You can imagine how difficult that is for a teacher. But anyway. This was further complicated by the fact that as a child I had difficulty speaking, and as an adult this sometimes results in me saying completely the wrong word. Some of you have noticed that I have a list of councillors' names always with me in meetings, and even with that there have been several occasions when I get people's names wrong, and for this I do apologise. The autistic traits and issues that I navigate on a daily basis are certainly not the most important things about me, but I thought I would end my last Mayor's report to Council by saying this. As a teacher, I've been open with students about my condition because I want them to see that it's possible for autistic people to get on in the world that is basically not built for them. Although I will point out to you that I am one of the 22%. That is 22% of autistic people who manage to have and hold a full-time job. For me, the important thing to say today is this. I'm not the first councillor who is also an autistic or has been an autistic person. And I'm sure that I'm not the first mayor who is or has been autistic, but I'm happy to be the first mayor of Bude-Stratton who is openly autistic. And those simple facts are not the most important things about me. I am far more than that. What's important to me here is that the good work done by community groups continues to be supported by the next council. Because nobody's coming to rescue us but ourselves. But I promise not to be political, and that's as far as I would go. So, I'll stop on that thought. Thank you. And now, item 4. To note any reports from Cornwall councillors.
Thank you for that speech. From the heart. I'd love to get political and have a debate with you about this.
Oh, no, I do.
Go on, Peter.
But I feel I shouldn't. So I want to open up with just a few thoughts, remembering John Jimpson, who most of you will know by now. He passed away on Monday. John had been a member of the coastal community team and was very, very understanding and interested in Bude and the challenges that we have and the challenges that our community have. And he felt one of the best ways to address those challenges was to make economic advancement and to give people jobs and the opportunities to do things. And that's where John was coming from. He died with his daughter by his side in hospital, and it was peaceful. And I would like us all, I'm not going to do a minute's silence, but I think just keep that in mind, that somebody who was really dear to a lot of us around this table and really cared about Bude is no more. I'm also going to open up, so on behalf of myself, but also my fellow Cornwall councillors, I'd like to thank our town clerk and our mayor for the last years of service. I know that both of you have had some very, very tricky things to deal with over the last months, and you have held your part up very well. You both put huge amounts of time into it, and I respect you both for everything that you've done, and thank you on behalf of my fellow councillors and myself. I'd also like to thank all of our office staff, all of our outdoor team, the castle team, and of course, the people that sit around this table, all the councillors. I don't think any of us want anything apart from good things to happen for our community and our people and our town, although we might sometimes have different ways of believing how we actually get there. But the thing is, we actually all want the same thing. Now, I'll give you a quick whistle-stop tour of things that I've been involved in over the last month. If anybody has any questions on them, then you can ask me at the end, and I won't go into too much detail because we all want to probably go to the pub. Right, Holnacott Road. Lollipop ladies are leaving that particular zone, and I've been asked to put a zebra crossing or clearer road markings in, and I think that's something really important that I will make sure I pass on to the highways team before the end of this council rotation. All councillors, I asked Tracy to send round last night the pre-application, which refers to McDonald's asking for a restaurant franchise in the B&M car park. I my personal initial feeling on that is that just space isn't appropriate. It will just clog everything up. They need to find somewhere where they can get a much freer flow of traffic. Still having lots of inquiries about the new recycling system. The majority of the population seem to be getting on with it okay. I'm astonished how little black bag waste my wife and I actually produce. Most of it's just nappies from the Mondays where we babysit our grandson. There's been a few more empty homes queries, and Councillor Jennings has been very hot on this, and I know that he's organised a meeting with a Cornwall Council officer, so that has been on my radar as well. I chatted just in passing to one of our estate agents in town because I'd heard a rumour that estate agents weren't taking on any more houses in Widmouth. That's entirely incorrect. They are taking on houses in Widmouth. Right, but what he did say was that second homes sale and interest of is almost through the floor. It just isn't happening at the minute. And also the people that own rental market properties would know there are very few individuals coming forward to buy properties to then let on to private individuals or private families. So that's one avenue of provision for people to rent homes, which is closing down, which is sad. I've been involved with surf school parking fees. All of the surf schools that operate in our zone, they have to pay a licence to Cornwall Council to operate on the beaches. But new this year, they're now being asked to pay to have their trailers parked on the car park. So we've been negotiating that. It's quite a tricky road to go through. I attended the Anmore meeting along with other councillors. Tom O'Sullivan, Vicky, I can't remember who else was there. Sean was there. Councillor Jennings was there. Councillor Walsbury-Robbins was there. It was a very... Councillor Cole was there, yes, who indeed spoke. Everybody from Bude.
Gentleman down the corner.
Who spoke, yes, Mr McGrath. Everyone who spoke from Bude, I thought, spoke eloquently. We held our end up very well. The morning session where the inspector allowed us to speak freely was generous of him, I believed. But when we sat down in the afternoon and had to face seriously the King's Council, it was a different matter entirely. So I don't know where it's going to go, but my hope was running high at the end of the morning and my bubble was slowly deflating throughout the afternoon. I've been continuing to work with the Holbury allotment users to try to secure that for them. I've been having a big catch up with the CTAP guys, the Environment Agency and Cornwall Council, and I've also introduced them to a local gentleman called Nick Cole. Some of you may know him. Nick has got some really interesting ideas about the vulnerability of Bude from sea level rise meeting flood inundation from inland, and he's got some ideas about using the river valley as a means of attenuation. And I think that has got some mileage, and I want the Environment Agency and Cornwall Council to seriously look at that, and they have promised me that they will do so. The new zebra crossings and the slightly adjusted mini roundabout is bedding in. I've used that crossing, I've tested it. I quite often go down to the mini roundabout where I occasionally meet Councillor Jennings, and we've sat for a few moments and watched people not indicating as they go around the roundabout. But it seems to be working, and some of you might have noticed that the zebra crossing lines went down today outside the Globe Hotel connecting across to the bus stop, and the bus stop area, the brick pavers, have all been reset because they were going very wobbly. The number 12 bus link between Bude and Plymouth, I'm pretty sure this is in the public domain. I was really disappointed that some of the buses are no longer direct connections, that you'll have to connect in Launceston and then again in Callington to get to Plymouth. So that is a loss of connectivity as far as I'm concerned for Bude to Plymouth. And people wishing to use, or to get to Bude, to Derriford, will now have to use, I think, 4 different buses if they go at certain times of the day, which is a disaster as far as I'm concerned. The canal embankment repairs have been completed. I was told that they pumped over 100 cubic metres of the resin-based filler into that embankment. And if you consider that a standard concrete mixer lorry carries between 4 and 8 metres, if you say average at 5 metres, that's approximately 20 loads from a standard concrete lorry that went inside that bank. So there were some serious issues with it, and I'm assured now it's completely stable. I wanted to reflect very briefly on one thing you said in your speech about the town and the vitality of the town. And I'm really keen that as a councillor, I don't sit on my hands and see the town centre die. And that's one of the reasons why I've been quite keen on supporting the town team. And the town team absolutely understand the future of town centres, because I've been in the discussions where we said, look, what happens when all of the shops that sell stuff go, because you can buy it on Amazon, what happens to fill that void? How are we going to promote that? How are we going to make the town centre a place that people want to go and keep it as a thriving economic entity? And I hope that they will continue to do their work, and I hope that they will be successful. Anyway, happy to take any questions, and thank you very much again, everyone around this table, and of course, our electors.
Just a question about the zebra crossing outside the Globe. I know you mentioned a while ago about the idea of having the pride painted either side of the zebra crossing, and I wondered if that was still something that was going to happen.
I believe it is, yes.
Thank you.
Councillor.
No, you never remember my name.
I know. You know now.
When I was teaching, the kids used to say Mrs. HC, much simpler. Right. Councillor Broy, you mentioned lollipop ladies. The 20-mile-per-hour zone coming up from Broadclose Hill, Valley Road, etc., is not obvious enough. It really isn't. Even Cornwall Council didn't realise that Holmicott Road was 20 miles per hour. They thought it was 30 miles per hour. So we need better signage there, and particularly with the fact that I love the new zebra crosses, they're great, but it is pushing more and more traffic up those roads. And Holmicott Road itself is a pinch point, it's a bus route. This morning there was a Mexican standoff between people trying to get from one school to the other with their children, which did eventually result in somebody having to reverse. So something really needs to be, particularly on the signage. And when it's not quite so busy, Holmicott Road in particular gets treated a bit like a racetrack. I've nearly had the front of my car taken off 2 or 3 times, which is no fun. I don't mind if I'm driving a Land Rover because that's 3 tons, but in a little car, it would be quite disastrous. Those are the main 2 links there on zebra crossings and lollipop ladies schools. Nick Cole, yes, he's got some absolutely fantastic idea. I've been talking with him with other stuff that I need to introduce Kate to him, but it's, yeah. Town centre, independent shops, it's what makes Whitstable thrive. So let's hope the town team will go with that. And yes, and thank you very much for all your support with Anmore. And Councillor O'Sullivan, I lead the way.
Councillor Colwell.
Yeah, I think Anmore was a great example of the community coming together, and yeah, people of all political stripes, apart from maybe a purple one, were there and giving it welly in support of the community. With the 12 bus, the other point I would make with the 12 bus is, of course, it does connect with Duchy College. So there are implications not just for healthcare but for education, and nobody really likes sort of hanging about waiting for connections. I'm sure that college students won't want to be hanging about in Lansing waiting to connect to the bus going on to Duchy College.
So I should have been clearer. It's not all of the buses that are affected by this. The college buses, and so the early and the late buses which serve the college are not affected. They're still direct services.
But there's still people don't always necessarily catch those college buses. If they've got, sometimes they want to get on, don't they? So they do. I know that all the buses that take that 12 route do go out through Duchy College.
Yeah.
Or destroy closing.
Okay. Anybody else? Yes, sir. Thank you. Councillor Boyd, just 2 things crossed my mind. You mentioned that the service businesses are going to be charged by their trailers in the car park. I'm just wondering if that also applies to the residents and more should the place get built, because they've got parking spaces for 15, vehicles there, I believe. But 20 odd cars, assuming all that. I mean, somebody's car park. Just a curiosity on that one. And then the other thing was, you mentioned canal embankment repairs being complete. I'm aware that a local resident has put a video up of the canal bank still leaking. Just a little way along from the steps down to the Iron Bridge. The council has requested a video from him. I have also provided 3 videos to him showing the same thing. So the council will get those. Repairs may be complete, they don't seem effective.
How disappointing. I wasn't aware of that. Yes, well, thank you. With regards to the Anmore cars, or the residents, the future residents of that site, if it gets to go ahead, they will be treated exactly the same as any other resident of Cornwall. They will be able to buy annual passes to park their car in the car park. Or they may wish to park their car down here on the town council land and buy an annual ticket. With regard to the canal leaks, that is rather disappointing, because I think that the Cornwall Council engineers don't wish to commit to the repairs to the top surface until they're entirely sure that the embankment is properly watertight and stable.
It makes sense, but it's not.
So,
Talking of repairers. Again, to the untrained eye, the latest repair to the breakwater looks to be spot on. Is that the end of benign neglect? Was it Cornwall Council that organised and paid for that work? Or not?
I'm trying to formulate a suitable response for you. So yes, Cornwall Council organised and paid for that repair.
They looked to them a decent job this time. It's not just flat concrete.
Yes, I mean, so Councillor Herbert Colson did mention to me in passing that she felt it would be quite good if the surface was made to be a bit more bumpy to allow the water to perhaps dissipate rather than hit it as a flat slab. I did pass that point on to the engineers that were working on it, and they did, I think, make an attempt to do that in as much as they reasonably could. It's certainly not the end of the repairs. So what I've been very keen on over the last 2 or 3 years, and I've been speaking to the maritime manager who looks after all the harbours in Cornwall, and I've said I think I would like to see us have a proper full engineering survey of the whole structure, so we understand where any future risk might be. He has politely asked me to refrain pressuring him too much because he hasn't got the money in his budget to do it. However, it has come to a point where my politeness has come to an end, but fortunately it combines with the potential for the CTAP, the Coastal Transition Accelerator Programme money, to be in place. And I'm fairly sure that one of the projects that the CTAP money will be doing is to look at a full in-depth study, a proper survey of the entire structure to understand where the weaknesses may be, where any voids may be. So they'll probably, I'm sure they will do a proper geophysical survey of the whole thing, so we understand. I'm also told that the Environment Agency is beginning to show signs of being willing to accept some level of co-responsibility for that structure. As it is, realistically, the major first defence for Bude in terms of bad weather and what sea level rise might bring us. So does that give you some comfort?
Yeah, one small area of that is that many of the larger problems can be solved by regular examination and fixing small problems. And they've also done a good job sealing Tommy's pit, I must say.
Good.
So it looks to be going very well.
Good.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you, Councillor McBride. Moving on to item 4, to note, I've done that. Item 5, to receive updates from lead councillors on community activities and outside hobbies. Councillor.
Yeah, an update on the Young People's Working Group. We have met a couple more times. And we've had lots of really good conversations to different areas of young people's lives, whether it was school or the voluntary sector. So that's been really positive. We've had other talks about, we've kind of trying to refine our terms of reference and really get that, so we've got a clear understanding of what direction we want to go in. So we've been doing lots of work on that, and lots of work on perhaps moving more towards being a steering group rather than a working group, so that we could then have other offshoots as working groups to then complete different things, so we could hopefully achieve more than one thing at one time. And also the event, the Young Persons event, has now been, hopefully you've seen it on Facebook, we've been advertising it, and I know that we've had quite a few people come forward, really interested in it, really positive. And yeah, we've just been working on that, getting it out there so people know that the event is on. And yeah, that's been going well, but Lorraine might be able to give a bit more information about how it's been going with people. I know we've had a lot of people come forward, so that's been really positive. So hopefully a few more, but yeah, lots of them will have workshops, and some groups want to, do demonstrations on the day, and so it should be a really good event.
Okay. Can you remind me what day, any picked a date?
It is the 31st of May. Yeah, here at the Parkhouse Centre, 31st of May will be the Young People's Showcase event, and hopefully, yeah, there'll be lots of people there, lots of things, so that we can really show everybody in Bude exactly how many wonderful things we have for our young people here.
Thank you. Any other lead councillors? Councillor.
Just a very quick one. VE Day preparations going ahead brilliantly. Deputy Clerk in Salton is doing a great job of doing things. Various other groups are doing stuff as well. On the housing front, I had an interesting chat with the Sheriff for Cornwall over at the evening at the castle, because he is part of the Homes for Cornwall organisation, which is nice to know. And I think Councillor Jennings is doing an admirable job chasing up housing. So, well done.
Yeah, thank you. Any other? Councillor Corrigan Turner.
I haven't prepared something, so I might just mumble. We attended a community area partnership meeting on Monday. I don't have the notes, unfortunately, yet, but a few things that were mentioned were, there was a big sort of thank you for some of the grants that have been handed out. I can't remember how much money, but there's been an awful lot of money that the community area partnership group has dished out. Which was quite nice, and it was very nice to see the groups there saying thank you and what they've done and how it had affected the surrounding areas. There was the police, I don't think he's a sergeant, I think he's
Greg Hodgkiss, Sector Inspector.
So slightly not a sergeant, slightly higher. But he was there on Teams, and he was saying that the crime rates are very low. He has put a request out to, if any crimes do occur, please let them know, because they're not being reported at the moment. That's come from him. I think that was about it from that one, unless there was anything else. Can you remember anything about that one?
It's what you better ask Tom, because I left early that meeting.
Councillor.
Sorry.
Yeah, I will follow up on the end of that meeting, but I was going to ask to speak, not a lead councillor, but as chair of the planning committee.
Okay.
Like so many other people have said, I wanted to thank all those who attended the Elmore appeal as well. without getting political, if you remember, or many of us remember with fondness the slogan of 4 years ago about being a council that represents the community to the council rather than the other way around. And I felt that we did that very much as with the liaison meetings, and I do really enjoy the liaison meetings, and some of the people here were attended, but I really enjoyed that, and I'm pleased to see that some of the attendees have now put their name, they were encouraged, have now put their name forward for council next time, so I hope that that was actually effective. As regards the, as you know, one of the things I've been talking about recently is that, you know, the experiment of handing responsibility for the provision of housing and homes to the private sector has failed. And we've been talking about having initial conversations at the planning committee about how we approach the new neighbourhood priority statements. And if that's what they're called, I always get those mixed up. That's great.
The new thing.
Yeah. So I'm really hoping that I see there's 3 of the 5 candidates for the Bude ward of Common Council present, and I'm hoping that they will all be prepared to support, give whatever support they can, if whichever one is elected, they would give support to this, because it really is, it's getting worse. Because 4 years ago, when we were campaigning 4 years ago, it was bad. But my feeling now is this whole situation is even worse. You missed a presentation by Cavanagh Homes at Poundstock last night, and one of the questions I asked them was, you know, we all have a gripe really against developers, haven't we? We all see them as the enemy, but actually they can't produce a product that is affordable anymore. And so there needs to be a revolution from the bottom up, as I said. So that's my report.
There's a thought. Council houses out there.
What a novel idea.
Yeah. Let's not get political, Councillor. Okay. Councillor Jennings.
This business of the houses, until we go back to the old way where there's a waiting list, the local people of Bude are absolutely buggered. There is no way they can ever get a home. Because every time a place comes up where I am, somebody from Newquay gets it. And every time I send up here, they're nutters. So those decent local people can't get homes, and the next thing you know, these people here 10 minutes or a few weeks, and you got 2 cop cars, 3 coppers in the nut wagon to take them away.
Okay, Councillor Jennings, I do remind you to moderate.
But whatever, but this is the biggest strike. It's all loaded against the local people every time.
Thank you. Councillor, would you like to reply to that?
Yeah, I mean, what Councillor Jennings is highlighting the problem that we have, which is it is so competitive that it's almost becoming a fist fight over who gives a hell, and it shouldn't be like that. No. And but so whatever it's use of language, you are actually making a valid point.
It's totally loaded against the local people all the time.
I suspect there's probably a lot of support around this table for the things you've been saying, but I don't know, but I suspect there is. Councillor Colwell.
I could join in with the party debate on housing, but I'm not going to. I'm aware that political speeches are not appropriate around this table tonight. But as chair of F&E, Fun and Entertainment, or otherwise known as Facilities and Environmental, I'd like to thank everybody who attended those meetings, or either sat on the committee itself or attended as an observing councillor and contributing councillor. I'd like to thank, obviously, Steve and the facilities team, who continue to do an excellent job. They have a broad range of skills, a fantastic range of skills, really, and they are able to save this council an awful lot of money that many other councils would have to buy those skills in at exorbitant rates. And I'd like to thank, of course, Ian and Tatiana and Tracy for putting up with my exuberance from the chair at times and my slightly waffly motions that needed to be tidied up on numerous occasions.
Thank you, Councillor. Okay, right. Moving on to item 6, the minutes. 6A, full council to approve the minutes of the previous meeting, 5th of March 2025. Do I have a proposer? Thank you. A seconder? Thank you. All those in favour? Very much. Any abstaining? And any against? Okay, thank you. Right, B, committees to receive and note the minutes of the committee meetings listed below. 1. Planning Committee, the 5th, 17th, 19th of March. I propose that we receive and note. Do I have a seconder? Thank you. All those in favour? Okay, those abstaining? And any against? Right, moving on. Facilities and Environment Services Committee, 13th of March 2025. Proposer, I have a seconder, thank you. All those in favour? Okay, all those abstaining? And all those against? Thank you. And number 3, Corporate and Democratic Services Committee, 20th of March 2025. The proposer, thank you, Councillor. Seconder? Councillor. All those in favour? Thank you. All those abstaining? And any against? Thank you. Moving on to C. Recommendations. CD/023/25. Resolved that BSTC continue to run the public conveniences at Summerleys Beach, Crockett's Beach and the TIC building for the financial year 2025 to 26. That officers be delegated to investigate the potential of taking on the freehold of the public conveniences as above from Cornwall Council. So, anybody wish to comment on this? Councillor.
I think I want to describe this as a situation where we find ourselves somewhere between a rock and a hard place. Because although the toilet facilities belong to Cornwall Council, they have clearly declared they do not wish to run them anymore. So if we don't take them on, we're faced with a scenario with there being no public toilets in view. So it's with reluctance that I see this as the only realistic way that we can go forward. Historically, Cornwall Council charged a levy on every car that parks in the car parks that have public toilets, and notionally passed that levy on to this council. At the initial point it was calculated it would return somewhere in the region of £60,000. I don't think they ever did actually calculate it, they just paid that as a levy to us, which we are satisfied with because it probably didn't cover all the costs, but it covered a significant proportion of the cost. That levy was taken away for this financial year and ongoing. So we're now sat out in the cold, having to fund it 100% from Bude-Stratton Town Council precept payers. I did challenge this, as the council will know, because I asked David Harris, who's the deputy leader of Cornwall Council, very specifically, can we not just put a levy back on to the car parks? The reason they took the levy off was because they were harmonising car charges across all of Cornwall. He said that there was a reluctance from his cabinet to do so. And when I further challenged him, he pointed out that Bude had had a windfall of approximately £90,000 from the second owner council tax precept. Now, I know it's not the same thing, and I again, it's sort of with some reluctance that I accepted that argument that notionally, from a net position, we were £30,000 a year better off than we were the previous year. And I know the argument is we could have been £90,000 a year better off. So my feeling on this is that we go with this, and I'm happy to propose it and support it unless anyone else has a burning ambition to. Right, but whoever is elected to represent the Bude division, I would urge that they take up the issue of a small dividend, a tariff fee being put on to every car parking charge to subsidise the delivery of this service for you, because I think that is the only fair way to do it.
Thanks, Sam.
That was a good summary of where we are, and I would support this motion because it doesn't actually tie our hands to do anything. It just asks officers to investigate options. And moving forward, there are broad options of charging directly, so you know, a quid to have a p or whatever, or funding it directly out of the precept pot. But I think Peter's right. I don't think we should let the option of having a car park levy disappear. We shouldn't just take Cornwall Council's no to that. And I have had discussions, and a future Cornwall Council may, if things go in a certain way at the election, a future Cornwall Council may be prepared to reinstate that levy. But proviso would be that this Bude-Stratton Town Council would need to own the idea that our car parks were going to be more expensive than other car parks, because that levy would be paid to us for the toilets, and that would be very much part of the deal. Now, that is for a future Cornwall Council, and that is for a future iteration of this council to look into. But let me tell you now that the idea of a car parking levy is not, in my mind, completely gone away. And this motion doesn't say that either. This just allows us to investigate other options.
Thank you. Councillor Herbert-Cookson.
I think we do need to take them on, because if we don't, what's going to happen? What's going to happen in our dunes rather than and on our dunes, and around the town as well. So COVID was an example around Cornwall and other places of what happens when there is no public toilets. So I think we do need to take them on. Hopefully, with the new county council down in Cornwall, they might actually recognise we're in the north, and we can perhaps, through our councillors and what have you, look to install a levy, to have something added to car parking charges. Bringing into that, the precept pot was just mentioned, Bude and its beaches are a big destination for a lot of our local parish councils. Would it be worth asking some of our parish councils? I believe Poundstock has the highest amount of second homes in the area. But they also pay for Widworth toilets. But it might be something to explore, to say to them. The second home windfall, yeah, it's going to be temporary. You are going to get people who will register their second home. One person will supposedly live there, and the other person will supposedly live in their other house. And I think it's starting to be seen to be done already. Also, if you are actively putting your property up for sale, your holiday home up for sale, I believe you don't have to pay the second home levy. Or actively marketing it as a short hold tenancy. So, yes, we will get something, but don't bank on it for too long. And the new incoming council for Bude, in Stratton, they shouldn't bank on it. The final thing is, have we actually got any money left in the pot to look at buying toilets? I don't know.
Interesting rhetorical question.
Yeah.
Councillor O'Sullivan.
Well, first up, perhaps Councillor Herbert Coulson's question regarding Comstock precept should be directed at you rather than me, because you pay your council tax in Comstock, I don't.
Well said.
But Comstock has got its own issues taking on the toilet. But I did want to ask Councillor LeBroy, correct me if I'm wrong, or clarify for me, was it a levy, previously a levy per car that was parked in the car park, or was it a lump sum regardless? Was it dependent on how many cars parked there?
It's a very difficult question to answer. I thought I'd wrapped it up in my first speech, actually. So when the notion of a levy per car that parked paying a fee, Cornwall Council officers said last year we had X amount of thousand, they multiplied it by the notional levy and they came up with a figure of £60,000. So the agreement was that they would pay a levy based on per car. However, we were satisfied to just accept the £60,000. We could have asked them to evidence it harder, we never did.
And it sort of goes back, you know, this is not a bee in my bonnet, isn't it? Like housing is the cutting of funding to local government means that parish and town councils are taking on services that, and we have, whatever way we go about this, we're going to have to put on a tax of some sort. It's going to be, you know, whether it's per car, whether it's whatever else, it's going to be a tax. And so cutting cutting tax at a national level and saying, oh, look, we're cutting your taxes, but then we're also cutting the money to local government, in which case council things that it's a trickle down effect. Things like toilets, and these are issues that are going to be big in the future. So addressing the motion, I'm in agreement that with the motion.
Okay. Councillor James, I think you need to say something.
If there's no toilets, people aren't going to come to the beaches of Bude, they're going to go other places. And then Cornwall Council are going to lose a lot of money because nobody's paying to park their cars.
Yeah, that's a logical solution.
So surely they're cutting their own bloody self, really. They're not, you know, they're the ones who are going to lose the money. I'd love to know how much Crooklet's car park takes in the summer or in 12 months.
I'll tell you.
Councillor Broy.
Speak.
Well, no, not this second.
Oh.
It's public domain.
Councillor Walls.
Yeah, quite interesting listening to the debate. The initial idea of a levy was formed from the previous council, and Cornwall Council at that time would not agree to just a blanket 10% of the yield from Crooklets and some of these, and the Crescent instead came up with a scheme that was 10 pence per hour per tariff paid, so which equated to around about 60,000 if you had the right. So that's where that came from originally. But it's a shame that Cornwall Council's gone down this road, because the levy's not been reduced, it's just been included in their own income now, because it was already there before. So, and also Cornwall Council officers often say toilet provision is not a statutory service, therefore we will not provide it. And I used to reply, well, neither is the provision of car parking spaces a statutory service, but you're quite happy to keep that. So it was quite sad, really. Of course, a load of spaces have gone from some of these now, and people are getting parking fines for parking on the sand because the spaces are covered up with the sand. And I don't know whether they're enforceable, because it's not in a, they say it's because it's not in a marked space. That might be so, but it's effectively now on a beach, isn't it? So I don't know where the jurisdiction.
It's a whole collection of issues.
But I'm not going to go on about it. It's a shame that, but we are where we are, as been said already. So you've got to deal with it, and let the next council hopefully sorts it out.
Yeah. Councillor Samar, I'll let you talk one more time.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this highlights the problem, really. Even if we do get another levy from Cornwall Council, and some future council will say, oh, we're not going to give you that anymore. So if common council are collecting the money, they have the ability to hold on to it when if they want to. So it's a difficult one.
It's a difficult one. Battles ahead. Councillor Boy has proposed this. Do I have a second? Oh, multiple seconders. Brilliant. Thank you. So we can now move to the vote. All those in favour? That is unanimous. Right. And now we move on to item 7, to approve the Stamford Hill Land Management Plan. I hope you've had a chance to read the document that we shared with us. Deputy Clerk, do you want to say something about this, or Clerk? I don't remember which one of you.
I think it'd probably be better if we defer to Councillor Browning,
Okay.
who may wish to speak about.
Okay, Councillor Browning, excellent.
Yes, happy to introduce this. So the eagle-eyed amongst you will notice the date of the start of this plan is 2023. It has been that long in the creation, largely just sort of admin and time commitments, but effectively it does mean it's been tried and tested with Steve and the facilities team. So but in outline, it kind of continues on our work that we have now a land management plan for Summerlees Downs and Mare Triangle, Mare Gardens. That's been very successful, I think, and in terms of the optimization of the management of the space for both nature and biodiversity and people and amenity. And that's really kind of the thinking behind this plan as well, is that collection of land parcels, the woods and the meadows there and the wetland in the valley, very diverse for, great for biodiversity, well used by people. And this plan really kind of puts into place a set of procedures that will hopefully optimise that and keep it safe and thriving for the future.
Thank you, Councillor. Anybody wish to comment on this? Councillor Colwell?
Yeah, just to say that the facilities team do not have a problem with this. They have been working pretty much to this plan. This is essentially a formalisation of a working practice that has already been agreed on the ground. And I would like to pay tribute to Councillor Browning for his work in this area, which has been tireless and not seeking recognition or glory, but just plodding along, getting things done for an enhanced environment for the land that we are stewards of.
Okay, Councillor.
Yeah, I'd just like to, more or less the same, but thank Councillor Browning for what he's done. The town council has owned that land since the very late 90s. And it was one of the first things that I sort of spearheaded in the acquisition of that land, funny enough. So it's nice to see that it's been looked after, and it's good that it's in the public domain, and it didn't get bought by developers. Something obviously not the bit down the bottom being good for development, but the piece between on the right hand side after the battlefield site, I mean that's good. That is in public ownership. Nice to see it. It's almost 25 years later. So with that, I propose that we approve the management plan.
Brilliant. Do I have a second? Multiple. Thank you. Okay. All those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you very much. Okay. Item 8. To discuss whether the Town Council has an interest in exploring the devolution of ownership of Bay Tree Gardens, Stratton, and agree any approved action. Now, I do need to ask officers about this because I've read through this and I just need clarification. What is the reason?
So I think Cornwall Council is seeking to divest itself of this particular area, and it has approached Town Council to see if it wishes to explore the devolution of ownership of it to the Council. I think South West Water currently occupy the property on a 99-year lease. Cornwall Council's ambition is to agree a lease surrender from South West Water and then dispose of the asset, and in seeking to dispose of the asset, it's approached the Town Council first, I suspect, to see if it has an interest in taking it on. One potential point to throw into the mix before councillors open up and discuss, which was, I was going to say before Councillor O'Sullivan drew my attention to the highways view on putting the shop in the toilet in Stratton. One potential option was to, if we did take this on as a council, is to put toilets in there and then give the entire toilet to the shop. But that now is looking increasingly less likely with the highways view. So there it is. We're being offered first disposal on this site for Cornwall Council. Councillor.
So Cornwall Council were going to develop this about a year or so ago on the open market, and I asked them to offer it to the town council first. And it goes back for some years when we were first talking about the potential of putting together a community land trust. Because I had hoped that we might just about be able to squeeze in a micro home on that site. But at the very least, it's a nice little corner of land. It's got a little bench in a quaint little building that used to have a bit of water pumping works in it, which we can strip out. Even if we never built anything there at all, we could make a nice little corner, amenity corner of land for Stratton. And we're often reminded by Mr. Bennett that we do little for Stratton, and this is just something that we could do and make sure that nobody else takes it on and does something suboptimal.
Any comments for the councillors? Councillor Silver.
Could I address the question to Mr. Bennett, please?
The councillor.
You're familiar with it. Is there anything you think the council should consider?
For what?
Sorry, this wrong button. It's called, what's it called?
It's the pumping station.
Yes, it's where we used to turn into Jimmy Marshall's garage on that.
I'll take the answer to my question still.
Okay. Mr. Bennett, I'll allow you to talk to the council. How do you feel about that suggestion?
Well, I don't know a lot about it actually.
Yeah.
But, anything that helps Stratton, then all well and good.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Okay, so we've had some comments. Do I have a proposal for this?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I propose that the council explores the devolution of ownership of Baytree Garden Stratton.
Seconder? Seconder? All those in favour? There we go. I believe, any abstaining? Gotcha. And any against? Okay. Right, so that's that one done. And number 9. To agree to sign a licence for Dog Wash Express. What's your favourite one? Councillor Moores.
Yeah, move it, it's signed. Discuss this one a lot, so.
Is this like a drive-through?
It's a shutting off. It's a shutting
On the move.
Okay, we have a proposal. Do I have a seconder? I have multiple seconders. All those in favour? Okay. Any against? And any abstaining? There we go. Okay, right. So,
Roughly you now.
okay, so, at the end.
We're not barking mad after all.
It's the final act of this council.
I'm told the licensee is here. Would you be happy just to stay to the end? We're near the end, so that we can sign on this. Thank you. Okay. Right. Number 10, to approve finance reports. A, schedule of payments made 20th of March to the 3rd of April 2025. Proposal. We have a proposal. Do I have a seconder? I have multiple seconders. All those in favour? Okay, thank you very much. 10B. Thank you very much. 10B, schedule of payments to be made on the 4th of April 2025. They have been attached. I have a proposal. Okay, do I have a seconder? Great. All those in favour? That's carried. Unanimous. Okay. Number 11, to receive items of correspondence from the clerk.
I don't have any items of correspondence, however, I would like to take the opportunity, if that's okay, just to add my thanks to the comments that have already been made by others around the table today. And just thank all councillors for all the hard work that you've put in over the last term. I know it's not always been difficult, it's been pretty challenging, but I think we've all worked really hard to try to reach the best outcomes for the community. So thank you for working with us. And also on a personal note, thank you all very much for welcoming me so warmly when I arrived here a couple of years ago. It's been a very exciting time. I've learned a lot, and hopefully I've helped to work with you all to achieve some good things. And also, on another personal note, thank you all for your kindness over the last few months while I've been not at full strength. So thank you for that. And in particular, a huge thanks to our Mayor, Steve, for the valuable support that you provided over this last year to further working with you. And I'd also like to extend that thanks to our previous Mayor from last year, and I've also worked with Mike Law. So thank you to everybody, really. So yeah, we look forward to the next year and working with those councillors who returned. And yeah, I mean, that's it really.
Okay, thank you.
Can I just have one request, please? Seeing as how there won't be an election in Stratton Ward, could we go ahead, please, with our regular meet the councillor session on the 3rd of May, Saturday, the 3rd of May, please?
That's a question outside of my room, really. Do you actually have any councillors then? When are councillors actually sworn in after the election?
May we come back to you?
Yes,
on that one?
we'll have to check with the swearing in. You're still there at that point.
It could be informal anyway, couldn't it?
It could be. You could actually have an
councillors of having their own.
I think they'll need to think about it and come back to you.
Yeah, but I mean, it doesn't, it doesn't really matter if it's not appropriate. That's fine. We can organise an informal, because I see our new Stratton councillors present as well, and there's just Peter, Jeremy, and myself at the moment. So yeah.
Should we just check so that we
yes, so everything's
yeah. Well, I mean, like I say, it can be informal. I can stop councillors and media opinions. Yeah, thank you.
Right, councillors. Before I get to number 12, I wish to take this kind of moment between items to truly thank all of you for putting up with me as chair, to truly thank all of you for actually making my life a lot easier by always everybody around the room trying to be their best self as a councillor and to follow the rules. And I do have to commend this council, who have, all of you have always tried to do the best by our community. And I will miss you all very much, and I shall miss this part of being a councillor. I should also like to thank members of the public who I know come every meeting almost. You provide us with incredible support in terms of local knowledge and asking questions, and so if you didn't come, perhaps sometimes there'd be nobody to ask such questions. So thank you. I would like to thank the clerk who has supported me massively, especially at a time it's been very difficult for her personally. I'd also like to thank the deputy clerk who has stepped in at various times and has often been the first port of call for me when I don't know something, and all of the staff of our great council, who I have been lucky enough to meet all of them. I think we have a huge responsibility looking after our staff, and I hope that that relationship with staff, the good relationship with staff, which takes effort to make, I hope that the next council also attempts to maintain. a good relationship with staff. But truly, to you all, thank you. I now move to item 12, to note the date of the next meeting, Monday, the 12th of May, 2025. I will appear for a small part of that. My last role to pass on being mayor to whomever is elected by the next council. But until then, to quote Shakespeare, our rebels are ended here. Thank you. Meeting over.